Thank you very much, my learned brother, Phale ji, all members of the teaching fraternity and resource persons associated with my erudite brother, and my dear aspirants for the medical education in coming year, friends. I would be failing in my duty if on this auspicious day of Teachers' Day, I would not record my appreciation, my thankfulness, my respects, my regards, and my gratitude to a very erudite teacher, which all dear aspirants you must be noting, observing, and visualizing for yourself in your mentor, Shri Phale ji and his entire team. And therefore, when he desired that I should be interacting with all of you on this auspicious day, in spite of the fact that it was a very pressing time for me, but I thought it that this will be a great opportunity of paying my respects to the devoted efforts and dedicated efforts in the interest of the learner community of this region that this dedicated brother of mine has been performing and dispensing over a period of time. And therefore, believe me, more than in any form, I'm deriving satisfaction in having dispensed my this duty-bounded duty of complimenting him on the Teachers' Day. Friends, we deem it our pleasure that today when we are celebrating, when we are commemorating the Teachers' Day, which as you are all well aware, is the birthday of our legendary philosopher, the first Vice President of Free India and the second President of India, Dr. Sarvapalli Dr. Radhakrishnan. The question is not that he was a gigantic personality. The question is not that he was a philosopher, an astute academician, an extraordinary administrator, and an academician to the hardcore. I was addressing the teachers' convention in the morning, and then I made it a point that when he took over the reins of the ascendancy of the highest office of President of India, the teachers in this country, feeling a sense of pride, sent a telegram to him. And it read, "The teachers of this country are proud that a teacher has become the President of India." Dear children, you will be interested in noting that the reply to this telegram, which was given by Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, makes a very, very interesting treatise. And he recorded, he said, he replied, quote, "It's not enough that a teacher has become the President of India. The real beauty would be that President of India would be a teacher," unquote. And it is that essence which I'm wanting you to perceive. A teacher is a light. It's a kindled light. It's an ignition. It's an ignition for inquisition. And it is that inquisition which is the hallmark of entire domain of what we call as creativity, innovation. I am tempted to quote on this juncture the significance which has been attributed by the greatest philosopher whom we had the fortune of seeing and being, late Dr. Abdul Kalam. He said that if the young minds are to be ignited in this country and they are required to be converted into a precious human resource by putting their wings on fire, it is imperative that they will have to be blessed with 5 eyes. I always thought that the 5 eyes that he is contemplating is talking perhaps of 5 eyes, EYES. But articulating in details, I realized that he is not talking of 5 eyes. He is talking of 5 I, capital I apostrophe S. And I am bringing out that to you, dear children. He said that younger generation of this country need to be put across with 5 eyes. The first eye for information. Information is power. Information is knowledge. Information is attainment. Information is achievement. And information is accomplishment. Larger is the gamut of information. Larger, huge is the canvas in which you are in a position to articulate yourself. And therefore, the first gamut to which the young, precious human resource is entitled to is information. Repository of information. Whatever sources you are in a position to gather, your entitlement to huge context of information is desired. But will that do? And the answer, he says, is this information has to be blended with imagination on part of the learner. This imagination has to be tagged with intrinsic intuition of the learner. And then learner has to be worked out with the fourth eye of integration of information with imagination with intuition. And then he says, if this process beginning with integration is attained, what will be the outcome through this throughput will be fifth eye, that is innovation, innovation and innovation alone. It is this path, dear children, which ultimately is the path of younger generations of this country to tread on. You as the medical aspirants, you as aspiring to be the future professionals, medical professionals of this country, you as a keen aspirant to be entering into the portals of medical institutions, I really put it across that please try to understand one thing, that in the present day, the real power lies in information. Therefore, information gathering is the hallmark of your entire pursuit. Somebody was asking me, and one of the important topics which as a medical teacher, I always used to deal for my students, and my learners always fondly remembered me on that count. And I always used to tell them that what are the functions of brain? Higher functions of brain, I am not talking about the vegetative functions. I am not talking of the functions of thalamus. I am not talking of the functions of hypothalamus. I am not even talking of the functions of the pontine nucleus. I am talking of the functions of the cortex. What are the functions? And one of the highest functions of brain which is attributed to it is intelligence. And that intelligence, the mother repository of which is memory. I ask a question to all of you. How exactly you will decipher your intelligence? It is not meager, the intelligent quotient. But then is there a subtle process by virtue of which the augmentation of sharpening of the intelligence can be worked out? My answer is a big yes. And that is exactly the reason why I thought I as a medical teacher, I as a medical learner, and I as a medical professional over a period of time thought it imperative that I will be in a position to put that across to all my young children who are standing at the threshold of wanting to be entering into the portals of medical education. My first contention, dear children, which I am wanting you to believe with all might at your disposal is intelligence is not inborn. Intelligence is not somebody's privilege. Intelligence is not somebody's prerogative. Intelligence resulting in creativity is not somebody's monopoly. It is in that context, remember one thing, intelligence and creativity is open to anybody and everybody. A mundane mortal like me, against all odds, beginning from a very humble being, if today I am in a position to stand before you, it only is to prove that intelligence is nobody's monopoly. Even weakest of the weak, poorest of the poor, remotest of the remote, being in the oddest of the odd situation, informational power can definitely bring him or her into the mainstream of any and every operation, and medical education is no different than that. Therefore, the subtle four-step method, four-step approach, which I am wanting to put across in the biological essence. I am not talking philosophy. I don't have to talk philosophy to tell my children what I am wanting to put across. And therefore, the four-step mechanism which I am wanting to put across is simple. Number one, perceive as large as you can. The perception has to be huge. If perception is short-sighted, if perception is narrowed down, if the peripheral vision is obliterated, if in the focus is only the central part of it, take it for granted. This is absolute, a minuscule perception. Perception has to be broad. It has to be huge. It has to be gigantic. Therefore, my first contention before you in the biological domain is perceive as huge as you can. But then, meager perception will not do. Having perceived, pick up the areas which you need to analyze. Analyze as deep as you can. Largest possible perception, put down into narrowed down focus, identified for the purposes of analysis, and then the analysis as an instrumentation being put across for the purposes of in-depth analysis. Therefore, huge perception worked out onto the annals of coning effect to be subjected to deep analysis, and then above of that deep analysis, what is to be done? Then comes the process of retention of that which is generated out of the deep analysis. Retention as large as you can. And finally, recall of the retained as frequently as you can. Small little 4 baby steps I'm wanting to put across. Perceive as huge as you can. Analyze as deep as you can. Retain as large as you can. Recall as frequently as you can, and take it for granted. Emerge out of this, you will find you are a different self. You're altogether a chiseled metal. You're altogether a persona which is capable of availing his cerebral cortex for the dispensation of the highest memory functions. Memory is always consequential, dear children. Please bear in mind. What you memorize, what you are wanting to retain, what you are wanting to recall, it has to be generated out of a small little theory which I am wanting to put across. I call it as A, B, C theory, where A is the activating event, B is the emotional response, and C is the consequence. You must be knowing, and you must have been taught by Dr. Phale, that ultimately we are required to be working on the basis of what is called as conditioned reflexes, conditioned learning, operant learning, executional learning. What is this conditioning? The famous Pavlov's experiment. I am not telling you, you may be knowing about it, and therefore I am just taking the cue what I am wanting to advocate. Conditioning. How do you get conditioned? And how does conditioned learning ultimately is the real hallmark on the entire operation? A is the activating event. What is that activating event? Your activating event is your decisive determination that you will be sustaining the merit and topping the merit list to be working out your legitimate entitlement for admission to the portals of medical education. That is your activating event. That is your goal. That is your dream. But that is not your wish. Wishes are not dreams. Dreams are not necessarily needs. Needs are not necessarily expectations, and expectations are not necessarily goals. And goals necessarily are not targets. Therefore, what is your activating event? Your activating event is not your wish की नाही बा आपल्याला मेडिकल मध्ये जायचं आहे, आपल्याला मेडिकल मध्ये प्रवेश हवा आहे. हे जर तुमचं नुसतं विश आहे, विशेष कधीही सक्सेस मध्ये कन्वर्ट होत नाही. म्हणून इंग्रजीत म्हण आहे, इफ विशेस वेअर टू बी हॉर्सेस, beggars would have ridden them. विश घोड़े नहीं होते कि उसके ऊपर में भिखारी सवार होकर के घुड़सवारी कर लें. Wishes have to be converted into felt needs. Felt needs have to be converted into acute needs. Acute needs have to be transformed into committed goals, and committed goals have to be put into absolute sense of targeted accomplishment, work by virtue of the exercise of devoted, dedicated, single-minded and focused effort exclusively in that direction. And that is the activating event. Therefore, what is your A? I say your A stands for not only one word, your A, that is your devoted activating event is your path that you are choosing for the purposes of 3 aces of your life. A, this activating event you are contemplating for the purposes of A, your achievement. मी माझ्या गुणवत्तेवरती प्रवेश मिळवलं. Will that suffice? No. Attainment, medical education माझ्या आयुष्याच्या पर्पसेस करता मी अचीव केलं. That is your attainment. But what is your accomplishment? आणि ते माझी जी जीवन मूल्य होती त्यांच्या करिता मी खर्ची घातलं. 3 aces that you are contemplating. हा प्रवेश कॉस्मेटिक नाही आहे, हा गोल कॉस्मेटिक नाही आहे, हा गोल नुसतं इमॅजिनरी फिक्सिशियस नाही आहे, हा नुसतं आपल्याला करून घ्यायचं म्हणून आपण नाही करून राहिलो. याच्यात आपली जिद्द आहे, याच्यात आपली अपेक्षा आहे, याच्यात आपला निर्धार आहे, याच्यात आपला संकल्प आहे आणि किंबहुना याच्यातच आपलं अनुष्ठान आहे. It is that, dear children, that makes that to be an activating event. Activating event has to pass through B. And what is that B? Emotional response. It is not just intellectual response. Emotional response is not weakness of mind. Emotional response is not fragility. Emotional response is stability and tranquility. Ultimately, when you have taken up a goal, that goal has to be balanced with your equanimity. It has to be balanced with your tranquility. It has to be balanced with your stability. What is that? Again, I'm sure that you must be taught and you must be oriented about something which Cannon had called as milieu interior. And then that milieu interior, which is to be contemplated in the form of homeostasis. And that homeostasis, which ultimately is constancy of the milieu interior. These are not just Latin phrases which are to be recalled for the purposes of answering your MCQs in the examination. These are the ways of life. These are the ways of pursuit. These are the ways in which your targeted dispensations are required to be worked out. And these are the mechanisms in which you will be actualizing the goals that you have set out for yourself. It is a balanced mind. It is a tranquilous mind which alone will be able to handle the activating event which you have generated for yourself. And therefore, that equilibrium, that equipoise, that stability of mind, what I call that as that man, which you are required to be integrating with your activating event, born out of committed intellect, they need to go in for a golden handshake. Therefore, when activating event merges with or shakes hand with a golden handshake with your equipoise, then what is the C generated? Desired consequence. Then that which is contemplated, which is dealt with an activating event in the form of a strong will, worked out with the equipoising of mind, take it from me, it is bound to result in the third dimension of generation of desired consequence. Where the mind is determined, where the effort is focused in tandem with the decisive mind, the consequence is the desired consequence, the desired consequence, and the desired consequence. And I go to step further. मी desired या शब्दाचा replacement केला. मी त्याला contemplated consequence म्हटलं आहे, जेणेकरून ABC theory ही complete होते. It is that, dear children, which ultimately is required to be worked up. Hollow aspirations do not mean anything. Hollow ambitions do not mean anything. Therefore, ambitions have to be studied with ABC concept. Your ambition is your activating event. Your equipoising is your strength of the mind. And that is the reason why it is said, मन के हारे हार है, मन के जीते जीत. जो मन की लड़ाई हार गया, वो जिंदगी के अंतर्गत जीत के काबिल नहीं होता. और जिसने मन को लड़ाई के लिए पक्का कर लिया, उसने मन की घुड़सवारी करते हुए अपनी प्रभुता और चैतन्य के साथ निश्चित तौर के ऊपर में अपने गंतव्य को प्राप्त किया. इसके न जाने कितने उदाहरण हैं जो आपको दिए जा सकते हैं. एंड देयरफॉर दिस सिचुएशन इज नो डिफरेंट. Therefore, the ABC concept I am wanting to put across for the constancy of the milieu interior. Handling of the stress is a real problem. All these things ultimately get disturbed by an errant biochemical mechanisms that we set in. And therefore, I put a question to yourself, whether it should be your adrenergic response to all this, or whether it should be a cholinergic response to all this, is a question which I put to you. And I always say, adrenergic response will always be resulting in general adaptation syndrome, and the modalities of that you will be putting across are divided into 1/3 of the mechanisms. What is the first mechanism? It could be a first F, it could be a second F, or it could be a third F. But what is the first F? The first F is most convenient, and that F is fright. कसं होईल? जीव कसं कसं करून राहिलो, घाबरतो आहे, मन घाबरतो आहे, स्थिती चांगली नाही, अनप्रिडिक्टेबिलिटी इज परवेडिंग मी. Your general adaptation response is that of fright. Will that do? Will that serve the purpose? Answer is a big no. What is the alternative response? Alternative response is flight. पडून जावं. A weak mind. But there is the third response, and that is F for fight. And that fight is, yes, I have prepared for my D-Day. It is my devoted effort which I am required to be putting. It is my total dedication which I am putting at stake. And when I am putting my best foot forward, Kainat cannot stop me. I am going to make it. And that is your adaptation syndrome. That is your acclimatization. That is your way of tackling. And therefore, it is that intrinsic confidence that you will be in a position to build. All of you are preparing for it. But all of you need to be sure of your preparations. It is not the repetitive indulgences which will be able to give you that confidence. It is your belief, it is your faith in yourself, and it is your decisive determination that you will be in a position to tide over the barrier. Hence, everybody works. But why is it only some people are in a position to work out their workmanship much better than others? It is not the difference in their learning levels. It is not a difference in their articulating levels. It is not a difference between their devoted hours. The difference lies in the confidence that you develop for yourself. With the best of preparations, if you have not been able to equip yourself with the decisive confidence, take it for granted, the possibility of determined decisive result coming your way may elude you. Therefore, on this occasion, I am not here to put you on a formal pedestal. I'm just wanting to put you three important things that dear children, as aspirant young men and women, you should believe in. Number one, whom you should trust. आप किस पर विश्वास करें? मेरा पहला कनोटेशन है, आप दुनिया में जिस किसी पे विश्वास करना चाहते हैं, आप बाद में करें, पर पहले आप अपने आप पर विश्वास करें. परीक्षा आपको लिखनी है, तैयारी आपको करनी है, लिखान आपको करना है, निश्चय आपको करना है, निर्धार आपको करना है, संकल्प आपको करना है, निष्ठा आपको तय करना है, संकल्प को यज्ञ रूपांतरित आपको करना है, संविधा आपको लानी है, और उस सारी चीजों के अंतर्गत प्रसाद आपको लेना है. जब सब कुछ आपको करना है तो विश्वास उधार में कैसे आएगा? इट इज you and you who is be all and end all, and therefore you have to be having full faith in yourself. माझा विश्वास जगात अवांतर गोष्टींवरती आहे किंवा नाही मला माहिती नाही, पण मला माझ्यावरती इतकं प्रचंड आत्मविश्वास आहे की मी जे निर्धारित केलं आहे ते मी मिळवणार. आठवण करा, परतंत्र गुलाम भारतामध्ये महाविभूती पुणेच्या सॉइल मधून उभी होते, ज्याला आज आपण बाळ गंगाधर टिळक या नावाने ओळखतो. कुठला तो निर्धार होता, कुठली ती जिद्द होती, कुठला तो निश्चय होता आणि कुठला तो संकल्प होता, ज्याच्या म्हणून मनापासून उद्गार निघतं की स्वातंत्र्य माझा जन्मसिद्ध हक्क आहे आणि ते मी मिळवणार. परिस्थिती साजेशी नव्हती. सिच्युएशन वॉज नॉट कंड्युसिव्ह, बट दॅट निर्धार वॉज a decisive निर्धार which paved the way for a real dimensional freedom struggle of this country of yours and mine, and ultimately resulted in generation of a freedom for all of us. That is the idea of nirdhar. Therefore, the first requirement which I am wanting to put across is believe in yourself. You are the architect, you are the doer, you are the first person. Therefore, it is your confidence in your own self which is going to be the real author of the scripture. Second, इस बात को हमेशा ध्यान में रखो, आत्मविश्वास के लिए there is another parallel which I, in your position as parent or teacher or the mentor or whatever you may call, I am just here to tell you the real चिंता, जो सबसे बड़ा कंसर्न दिमाग में हमको हमारे आत्मविश्वास को दीमक की तरह खाता है, वो ये है कि झालं तर चांगलं आहे, नाही झालं तर लोक काय म्हणतील. मैं आपको कहना चाहता हूं बच्चों, सबसे बड़ा रोग क्या कहेंगे लोग, लोग काय म्हणतील. मैं आपसे बिल्कुल कह रहा हूं, आप अपने आत्मविश्वास को अगर मजबूत करना चाहते हैं तो ये चिंता दिमाग से निकाल दीजिए. कि लोग क्या कहेंगे। वो गाना याद करिए, आप लोगों ने सुना है या नहीं सुना है, मेरे जमाने में समीर तुमको भी ध्यान होगा कि कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, छोड़ो बेकार की बातों को, इन बातों में क्या रहना। इट इज दैट विच आई एम वांटिंग टू पुट अक्रॉस। फॉरगेट एवरीथिंग। आपने अपने गोल को तय किया है, आपने अपने परिश्रम को तय किया है, आपने अपने निर्धार को तय किया है, आपने अपने निश्चय को तय किया है, आपने अपने आत्मविश्वास को तय किया है, आपने अपने आत्म को तय किया है। दुनिया की कोई ताकत आपको रोक नहीं सकती। इस निर्धार के साथ आप चलिए, आप अपने आप को आविष्कृत करेंगे। नंबर वन। नंबर टू, किसी भी प्रकार का कोई न्यून गंड, कॉम्प्लेक्स अपने जहन में मत पैदा होने देना। मला जमेल का, मला झेपेल का, माझ्याने होईल का, कोई कॉम्प्लेक्स जहन के अंतर्गत नहीं लाने का है। एज इफ डेस्टिनी कॉन्टेम्पलेट्स that this is exclusively meant for me, I am destined for it, I am decisive for it, I am emphatic on it, and I am going to make it. That is what is your focus, and that is what your decisive determination is. Therefore, the second contention is believe in yourself that you are going to make it because you are destined to make it. Nothing can stop you from doing so. But let it not be a false belief. Let it not be an imaginative belief. Let it not be a compensatory complex. Therefore, do not have any sense of any inferiority complex in terms of doubts or vacillations. No scope. एक बार पैर रख दिया तो वो पैर आपका पैर नहीं है, वो पैर अंगद का पैर है। इस भूमिका के साथ पैर रखो। अंगद की कहानी आपको मालूम होगी। राम का दूत बन करके गया था, रावण के दरबार में गया था, चर्चा हो रही थी, और चर्चा के अंतर्गत राम के पुरुषार्थ के इंडिकेशन के लिए उसने दांव पर क्या लगाया है, दांव पर सीता लगाई है, और क्या कह रहा है, ये मैंने पैर रख दिया, अगर आपने पैर उठा दिया तो मैं सीता हार जाऊंगा। व्हाट ए डिटर्मिनेशन, कितना जबरदस्त डिटर्मिनेशन है। राम, सीता अंगद की नहीं है, परंतु फिर भी जिस सीता की खोज के प्रयोजन के लिए सारा तंत्र चल रहा है, उसके अंतर्गत दांव पर लगाने को वो तैयार किए। मैंने पैर रख दिया, अगर इसको उठा दिया गया तो मैं सीता हार जाऊंगा। दैट इज एन कॉन्फिडेंस, that is a decisive confidence, that is a trust in self, and that is annihilation of against all hostile situations. In Ravan's Lanka, if Angad is capable of putting this across, it is not an anecdote, it's not an imaginative fiction, it's a style and way of life which is required to be undertaken. And therefore, that is the second thing which I am wanting to put across to you. Third dimension, trust and believe that you are unique, and therefore this decision of yours is for the purposes of invention and discovery of your own uniqueness. मैं आपको ये बताने के लिए नहीं आया हूं कि इतके तास अभ्यास करा ना तितके तास अभ्यास करा आणि असं अभ्यास करा, हे समीर फाले तुम्हाला सांगतील आणि ह्यांनी अनेक लोकांना तयार केलंय आणि तुम्ही त्याला अपवाद नाही. पूर्ण एक लिगसी, पूर्ण एक फळी त्यांनी या नागपूर शहर आणि विदर्भाच्या अंचलामध्ये उभी केलेली आहे, आणि म्हणून त्या बाबतीत तुमच्या मनात कुठल्याही प्रकारचा किंतु परंतु असण्याचं कारण नाही. अभ्यास कसं करावं, आठवणीत कसं ठेवावं, रिकॉल कसं करावं, हे माझं काम नाही. हे याच्याकरता मी आज आपल्या समोर नाही आहे. माझं मेन कंटेन्शन असं आहे की तुम्ही तुमच्या निर्धारामध्ये जर तुम्ही तुमचा युनिकनेस याच्यावरती विश्वास ठेवून ते आविष्कृत करण्याकरता आपण ही संधी मिळवण्याचा प्रयत्न करतो आहोत, टेक इट फॉर ग्रांटेड. It is an approach that you will be deciding and deciphering for yourself for the purposes of self-invention, for the purposes of self-discovery, for the purposes of self-identification, for the purposes of self-propagation and self-enunciation. It is for that. It is that vertical pyramid that you are required to be articulating for yourself, and therefore you are subtly committed to destined goal of yours. Fourth dimension which I am wanting to put across, and that is the most important cardinal parameter of actualization of all these propositions, ladies and gentlemen, is what Bhagavad Gita tells us. It is karma yoga. Ultimately, it is the duty which has to be dispensed, and that duty has to be done and dispensed with A, sense of purpose, B, sense of motivation, C, sense of decision, and D, sense of direction. These are the four ingredients which have to be put across, or rather, these are the four wheels which are balancing the entire movement of karma, activity that is required to be undertaken. The साधना का साधन अगर आपके पास में कोई है, साध्य आपने तय कर लिया, परिश्रम आपकी साधना है, परंतु परिश्रम की साधना का कार्मिक विवेचन, ये that is what I'm wanting to put across to you. Not that you are not aware of it, but I'm wanting this to be regenerated in your mind with a newer Philip. I'm just wanting this to be rekindled with a new vigor and vitality for you to be pursuing that entire pursuit with all possible strength at your disposal, with all possible commitment at your disposal, with decisive determination at your disposal. Take it for granted, you shall succeed. मुझे कई बार लोग कहते हैं कि डॉक्टर मिश्रा, ये ऐसी कैसी गारंटी आप बच्चों को दे देते हो कि आपको ऐसा लगता नहीं कि बच्चों के मन में आप ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस पैदा कर रहे हो? ना मित्रों, मैं एटीट्यूड आपको देने के लिए आया, वही एटीट्यूड मेरी थाती है। मुझ जैसा विपरीत परिस्थितियों के अंतर्गत जूझने वाला वेद प्रकाश अगर आपके सामने खड़ा है तो आप मान करके चलिए, कोई भी आदमी इसी एतबाब के साथ खड़ा हो सकता है। ये कहने के लिए मैं आपके बीच आया हूं। मैं आपको एक एटीट्यूड देना चाहता हूं, और वो एटीट्यूड केवल इतना है कि यस, देयर विल बी चैलेंज। आपका गोल इटसेल्फ इज अ चैलेंज, आपका ध्येय इटसेल्फ इज अ चैलेंज। Pursuit that you are envisaged, it's not a cakewalk. Out of lakhs of students who appear, and in terms of the merit, there are limited number of people who are vying for it and who are getting into it. Therefore, competition is tough. I'm not wanting you to underestimate that. I'm not wanting you to be taking that with a lighter mind. But then there has to be an attitude which will be enabling you to tide over. And what is that attitude? That's the psyche. And that's a very simple psyche. Therefore, the entire pursuit with the concurrence of Dr. Samir, which I'm wanting to put across to you is, I put a simple situation. Your goal is a challenge. Your target is a challenge. Your pursuit is a challenge. So, should you be deterred by the challenge? Should you be disturbed by the challenge? Should you be deviated by the challenge? Or should you be distorted by the challenge? What should you be? What is that approach and attitude which you will be governing? I simply put it, challenge is there. What should be your approach? The normal approach that we adopt out of modesty is, our approach is, can I? मी करू शकेन का? माझ्यानं होईल का? Will I be able to do it? Can I? Now I want English grammar. Punctuate the sentence, can I? What will be the punctuation mark? Question mark. Can I? Question mark. Now, until and unless you do away with this question mark, will the problem be sorted out? My answer is a big no. Now, can you wipe out that question mark automatically and it will wither out? It cannot. By closing the eyes, the challenge will not wither out. Then what? My contention is simple. Why should you think in terms of can I? Just interchange the words. Your approach shall be, I can. When it was can I, punctuation was question mark. And when it is I can, the punctuation itself has gone vary and the question mark has withered out. Therefore, your approach is not can I. Your approach is I can. And this I can, I am not imagining in terms of a falsified fiction. I am wanting you to recall a story which is historicity in the entire annals of men and mankind. 1964. If you see the Washington situation, which is akin to New Delhi, आप याद करिए कि उधर राष्ट्रपति भवन है और उसके ठीक सामने इंडिया गेट है और बीच के अंदर में राजपथ है। वॉशिंगटन अगर आपने देखा होगा, नहीं देखा होगा, मैं आपको बता रहा हूं, एक तरफ कैपिटल हिल है, पार्लियामेंट हाउस, उसके ठीक अपोजिट लंबे ग्राउंड के बाद वॉशिंगटन मेमोरियल है, जॉर्ज वॉशिंगटन का मेमोरियल, बीच में बहुत बड़ा खुला मैदान पूरा का पूरा है। Martin Luther King, 1964, he was addressing the multitude of the people in his historical speech. And he said, I am facing the Capitol Hill with this Washington Memorial at my backdrop. And yes, I have a dream in my eyes. A dream which I am wanting to see in the interest of men, mankind, and humanity. a dream which I am wanting to see in the name of equality and equanimity, a dream which I am wanting to actualize the concept of Abraham Lincoln of abolition of slavery. And therefore, I am seeing a dream that yes, we can. And that we can will be that this White House, which is in between the two, will be housing a black man as the President of United States of America. 1964, the slogan was, yes, we can. In 2008, Barack Obama, now standing in the Capitol Hill, with Capitol Hill at his backdrop and Washington Memorial in front, he gives the slogan, what was dreamt in 1964, yes, we can, here we have done. This is what is the nature of the approach. And therefore, dear children, your aspirations need only one important aspect of your attitude, and that is the attitude of I can and not can I. Have that, take that, put that in your lap, put that in your heart, put that in your mind, put that in your operation, and put that in your karma. Take it for granted. Anything will be able to be deterred, but determined efforts do not get deterred and they do not fail you. Success is scripted by virtue of the devoted efforts taken by an equanimous mind, decided by a balanced poise with a sense of positive pragmatism, total faith in oneself, with a determination of I can and therefore I shall. Therefore, dear children, your aspirations, they bear fruits and they get definitely actualized in the mode and manner that you are wanting to achieve them for yourself. The entire facilitations which are required on that particular kind, or including the catalysis thereof, is fully enriched by eminent devoted people like Dr. Samir Phale, who have rendered their human services on that count. It was a pleasure talking to all of you. I wish that all of you shall be budding future medical professionals of coming times and join the profession for the purposes of putting your real best to the cause of healthcare delivery system, not only of this country, but of the globe as well. I really intend to welcome all of you with open arms into the profession for rendering a larger good. Thank you very much for patient listening. I bless you all this occasion, hoping for sure that you will be in a position to actualize your ambitions in a realistic way, in a meaningful way, in a cogent way. I salute all the parents of yours for their determined efforts of care and concern for their children, and their efforts will not go away. At least age permits me to even bless them for the successes. Thank you very much, Samir. I'm obliged to you for giving this opportunity of interacting with these young minds which keep this old man young even at this stage. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.